public. The meeting is being broadcast live, and a recording of this meeting will be made available as soon as possible after the meeting has concluded. We welcome the use of the Welsh language at meetings, but I have had no request for people to speak Welsh today, so this meeting will be conducted in English only. Please can members refrain from using the chat function and instead use the raise hand icon to indicate when you want to speak. And may I remind members that as per statutory guidance made under Section 4 of the Local Government Wales Measure 2011 and our formally adopted hybrid meeting policy, any member attending a meeting remotely must be able to be seen and heard by the members and officers who are attending the meeting, as well as by members of the public viewing the meeting. So can I ask that you all please use your cameras for the duration of the meeting? And also please remember to keep your microphone muted when you are not talking, and do not interrupt discussions until you have notified of your intention to speak and you have been invited to do so. Okay, right, moving on to the agenda. Agenda item 1, I'd like to welcome you all. And Niall, do we have any apologies, please?
Yes, thank you, Chair. So we have apologies from Councillors Liam Cowles and Nathan Yole.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, Chair, does that Councillor Burns' apologies come through as well, please?
Okay, thank you very much. Agenda item number 2, declarations of interest. Members, do you have any interest to declare? No, thank you very much. And agenda item 3, minutes for the meeting on the 30th, the 11th, 23. Just to remind you, members, those are the minutes of the meeting scrutinising the Blenavon Townscape Heritage Programme. Members, do you approve of these minutes?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, thank you very much. Agenda item 4 is the action sheet. Rebecca, could you please run through the action sheet?
Thank you, Chair. So there was only one action on the action sheet from the last committee, which was the recommendations to the scrutiny activity you did on the Townscape Heritage Programme. You have now received those responses, so unless members have any questions, Chair, I have nothing further on that.
Okay, many thanks, Rebecca. Right, agenda item 5, the Torvine Business Direct. I would like to welcome Councillor Joanne Gordon, who is the Executive Member of Economy, Skills and Regeneration, Mr Dawson Evans, Group Leader, Economy, Enterprise and Tourism, and Kate Blewett, Business Engagement Team Leader.
Just a point on that, Chair. My job title is incorrect on me. Right, it's actually Group Leader, Strategic Economic Development. I know it changes frequently. Right.
Okay. To apologise also.
No.
I'll now hand you over to Councillor Gordon and Dawson to give a brief introduction to the report, please.
Thank you, Chair, and morning members, and thank you for the invite today and for your time to scrutinise the activity and direction of Torvine Business Direct in its first year, explore the opportunities for future growth through the Torvine Business Engagement Framework activity and sustainability through considering the use of My Council services as an alternative database. We know businesses welcome the one-stop shop approach of using the Business Direct service, but it isn't only about saving times on multiple calls or emails. It's much more than that. It's also about developing relationships with our local businesses and not missing unknown opportunities to share upcoming events, workshops, training and funding opportunities. Our Business Direct service is the first of its kind in Wales and demonstrates our commitment to grow our economy. We aim to provide a quality service and seize opportunities to support our businesses to grow. Business growth means new job opportunities and increasing local supply chains, and of course improves the health and well-being of our residents. Our county plan aspires to make Torvine a great place to do business. Torvine Business Direct is the gateway to that journey. Your recommendations will be very much welcomed for consideration. Thank you.
Just to add to Councillor Gordon's address there, Torvine Business Direct is a real drive towards quality delivery of service for our businesses within Torvine. One of the main drivers for it is ownership of inquiries, so that when an inquiry actually hits Torfaen County Borough Council, it is dealt with from start to finish by the same team, so that the quality of that answer is increased and that the inquiry is answered as a whole rather than in part. So, whereas there are other considerations, the main consideration of this service is an increase in customer experience.
That would help. I do apologise. Thank you very much, both. Now go on to the members' questions as per the list distributed by Rebecca, following pre-agenda. Question number 1, so that's myself, is relevant to paragraph 3.4, which is stated that we will make Torfaen a great place to do business by working with local employers, encouraging new business, start-ups and entrepreneurial activities. So is the Torfaen Business Direct service a key element in achieving this objective, please?
I believe it is. Business Direct, as well as providing that sort of one point of contact for businesses to engage with the authority and access council services, the team, through the SPF funding, we deliver additional activity to support business startups and business growth. So we have a number of activities that we've delivered over the past year, and we've got a number planned for the next year as the SPF runs through to March 2025. And it is to support startup businesses. We work in partnership with a lot of our partners, such as Business Wales, Development Bank, internal officers as well, to give them the best support, advice, guidance, direct them to any funding opportunities, and similar for entrepreneurial activities. We've run a whole programme to encourage young entrepreneurs to make their business ideas a reality.
Just to add on the back of that, Business Direct, Torfaen Business Direct, will be the shop front for the delivery of economic development services for the borough, and it's all driven at, and I keep emphasising, quality of customer service, so it's essential in delivering that aspiration in the 3.4. And what it does, it enables us to have that consistent engagement with our businesses and that consistent answer of queries, support functions, etc.
Okay, thank you very much for that comprehensive answer. Question number 2 is Councillor Nick Haller, who has he has quite a few questions on the sheet this morning, so I'll hand over to Councillor Nick Haller for question 2, please.
So my first question of this morning is on 3.7. The service was launched in 2023, March of 23, and it provides advice to services, advice and support to approximately 370 businesses. Could you kind of tell us what kind of businesses are engaging with the service currently? Well, obviously not names, but types of businesses.
Of course. So the types of businesses that engage with us, we have individuals who've just got a business idea. So they'd be our potential startups. We've had inquiries from near on every sector you can imagine: retail, business services, manufacturing, tourism. So, I mean, this morning I looked, that 370 figure is now 395. So since writing this report, we've had 25 more. So it covers all types of businesses. And even though we set out to encourage that, the reality is, as such, every sector, we have a drop down where we track every sector that engages with us. As you can see in the report, there's the data on that. But we also get the sort of different parts of the life cycle of businesses. So from the startups right through to the ones that have been there established for 50 years, and from the ones that are succeeding and the ones that need a bit more support before they sort of take a downward turn. So it's reaching out to us. So the reality over the past 2 years has been what we thought it would be, that it is we've covered near on every sector that we thought we would.
I'm going to ask a supplementary on that. So you have a startup business come to you that want to start up. How many of those go into reality? So they come to you for a project, they come to you to say, I want to do this. But how many of those come into a reality of becoming a business within Torvine?
I can't give you the exact figures on that. It is something we are tracking at the moment, because if for the first 12 months of the delivering the service, we were piloting that within the Economy and Environment Directorate. We've now rolled it out across the wider authority. Through the CRM that we use, we can track the startup. So we do use keywords that then we go back and track, and then we have a process. We start to reach back out to that person who is thinking of starting up to see how they're doing. Did they start up? We know of a good number who have, because then we continue with their journey in sort of developing their business, because the startup is, it's just not one day, it's over a period of time. And where we work with partners such as Business Wales, because there's a lot of support that they can offer a startup, we continue that engagement with Business Wales to track the outcomes of that initial inquiry. So then we log the outcomes. So we can track it all, and we're continuing to do that. So, as I said, at the moment, I can't give you the figures, but they are happening.
So it would be interesting to see what startups are happening currently through this Business Direct. My second question is...
I can add just to that answer, Nick, as well, which was comprehensive from Kate. Part of the work that Kate is doing is engaging with providers of external databases. And it's a question of looking at what we have on our CRM and what has come through to the actual figures that come through on those external databases. So that kind of work will be refined through that business engagement framework, which is what Kate's team is looking to develop now.
Thank you for the clarification on that.
Thank you very much. Question 3 is back to Councillor Nicola again.
This is about 3.9. The service provides a single point of contact to businesses. How does this operate in practice, and what benefits has brought this to compared to the system placed prior to Business Direct implementation? And obviously I was involved in that because I was a start-up business in Blaenavon 10 years ago, and I was talking to the guys who run the tech.
Could you repeat the question, please?
So the service, this is about 3.9. The service provides a single point of contact for businesses. How does this operate in practice, and what benefits has this brought compared with the systems in place prior to Business Direct implementation?
So in practice, I mean, we've in the piloting phase of the development of the service, we looked at all the access points that businesses were using back then, and then we'd redirect them to actually funnel it through Business Direct. And then what we would do, we'd have processes set up with all the teams across the authority and with our external partners. So at the moment, we've seen since the service has started, and with the marketing activity we've done alongside it to get awareness to the businesses of that one point of contact, the figures are just increasing of the number of inquiries. The benefit to the business is that prior to the service, and I tested it as if I were a business wanting to start up on the high street, for example, and I Googled every area I knew I'd need to think about: planning, environmental health, asset management, etc., and I would have had to contact 8 different phone numbers and 8 different email addresses. So there's a huge benefit now that the business only needs to contact one number, one email, one web contact form, and then we do the rest of the work. So we then have processes with all the teams across the authority of forwarding that inquiry to them to get the information back, to do that one email back to the business. An additional benefit is if a business had just asked, for example, how do I register with environmental health? We get the information back to the business, but in addition, we tell them a bit more than they asked for, but a bit more that will support their business startup and their business growth. So opportunities that as an authority we can offer through how they find out about grants, training opportunities, our Torvine Business Club, how they access that, and anything else that is happening coming up. So they get a bit more going back, which can, that you know, they've been very receptive to that. So.
Add on the back of that, I think what the business gets is a complete answer. With the fragmented approach before, if somebody went to planning, they get the planning advice, and the planner wouldn't necessarily know that there are other pieces of advice needed for that business to start. So basically, the information is given completely. As I said earlier on, that engagement is owned by the team, so that's important, and that relationship starts to build. And that's all about giving that business starter that leg up so they can build the resilience into that business more quickly than if it was going through that fragmented approach.
So could it be said that Business Direct is a far better service for those people that want to start up in business? It's a lot easier to set up a business. When I moved to Torvine 10 years ago, I get the situation, I had to go to A to B to C to D, but now having this one central point is very beneficial to Torvine as a county.
I think, yes, because a start-up, often they're flailing a bit, they're not sure. So as well as if they've got the one question and they say we're a start-up, we can have I'll pick up the phone to them, we have a conversation. I say, have you got a premises? Have you thought about this? So I kind of like get them thinking about elements they'd need to start up, you know, some legislation, you know, legal aspect as well as business supportive aspects. So I can sort of prompt them and then direct them accordingly. So, you know, myself and my team, we're not the experts in planning, in licensing. We go reach out to our colleagues who are the experts, but we have an overview of a startup business, which experts they need to go and speak to, so we can guide them and support them. And by speaking to them and building up that relationship, I always say to them, please, call me in a couple of weeks. Don't hesitate. Anything else, however small or simple you think it is, come back to us. And we build that relationship with those individuals. And it works. They do come back to us.
I think the answer to the question is that's the aim of the service. We are, thanks to the efforts of the team, we are way down the line on that journey. But we're testing that through customer feedback questionnaires, etc., to make sure that that evolution is exactly what the businesses within Torvine actually need. So that's the aim. We're a good way towards it. We're not saying we're perfect yet, but we're fair play to the team that put the effort in to make sure that that happens.
Okay, yeah, okay, thank you very much for that. Move on to question 4, and Councillor Cal Gordon.
Thank you, Chair. My question relates to 3.12 on the report. It says Business Direct uses a customer relationship management system, and it was used to its greatest extent in 2020 when officers contacted every Torvine business during COVID. So the question is, to what extent has the customer relationship management been used since COVID? And if it hasn't been used extensively, what are the reasons? I guess the essence of this question is, it was proactive in that period during COVID? Is it still proactive, or has it become more reactive to sort of inquiries coming in?
The CRM we've had for 5 years, and COVID, it came into its own because it enabled us to do that piece of work, to reach out to businesses and provide the support that was available to them. It then enabled us, it gave us some ready data that we could then add to through the Business Direct service. But the data, we use the CRM for many things, as well as, so recording as an inquiry comes in, it then alerts us, because when we go out to our colleagues, we set timescales. So it alerts us back that because if you think how many inquiries we're dealing with, we need to know when it's due to get back to a response to them, because we set the 10 days. We normally do it within 48 hours anyway. But also then it triggers us an alert to then send the feedback surveys out. We run events through it, through bookings. We run data sets through it. We have keywords that as a team we will use, so we can track startups, we can track entrepreneurs, our colleagues if they need any data. So since using it for COVID to what we use it now, we probably use it, I wouldn't want, but sort of 100 times more to what it's capable of than we did at that time, which served the purpose that we really needed, and thankfully we had it. But we've actually made the system bespoke to the needs of the Torvine Business Direct service to enable it to meet what we need to provide that customer service to the business.
Yeah, just to add to that, Councillor Gordon, what COVID gave us was critical mass in that CRM, so that we had a lot more detail, a lot more business idea that we could work with to actually take these services forward. So everything, if there was a positive out of COVID, that was one of them. Prior to that, we hadn't had any funds to give to businesses as grants since 2015. All right. So what COVID did, it gave us funds so that business engagement to a wider audience than we were experiencing before. And that gave us the critical mass on that database, which we're now using to actually our service is going to work. So that's the answer to it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for the answers. Question 5 and 6 now. I'll hand over to Councillor Nick Hawler.
So question 5 is about 3.15. It would also provide clarity on the roles of each existing business network forums platforms. What benefit will this contribute to developing Torvine Business Direct services in year 2? Thank you.
That is around the business engagement framework. So with regards Business Direct, even though it is a service for businesses to engage directly with us, with the authority, the business engagement framework, Business Direct will form part of the framework. The framework will, by understanding who our networks and forums are across the authority, we will understand who they are, what their aims are, what sectors they are, or if it's cross-sector, what channels they understand they can engage with the authority if they have items that they want to bring up to us, but it also provides us with channels to engage back with them. So I think as Business Direct and our service to support business growth, it's all about the awareness raising of the service in that wider package underneath the business engagement framework, which will provide us an understanding of our business community and landscape across the authority, and how we can work close with them and understand their needs, and they can understand the channels coming back to the authority.
I think off the back of that, there are a lot of business networks available, as you would know yourself, and not all of them are appropriate to all businesses, right? So by having that contact with those networks and contact with those businesses, rather than businesses using time that we spend better on the business by engaging each one of those forums to find out if it's right for them or not, then we have got the information there to be able to share with them at an early stage so they can make a more informed choice. That's what that's all about.
So do you think this is going to embrace more engagement within businesses in one location? Is that what the main aim is?
That's
that what
the
you're
aim,
aiming for?
yeah.
Thank you. My next question, which is question number 6, is about 4.1. An example, from April the 6th, there's going to be changes in the business recycling waste. How do we engage with our local businesses on issues such as this to promote the changes and offer support where it's required?
We've been working with the waste team since the first news of the changes in legislation, which was early last year, I believe, or mid last year. So we've already been working with them to get that information out through our social media platforms, our newsletter. When inquiries come in about waste, we inform them through that as well. So we've been working with them for, since we've known, to get that information out to the businesses. So I think through all those channels, we've been achieving that.
What kind of engagement are you having from businesses regarding the changes of the 6th of April?
What I'm finding is a lot of the inquiries that come through that we do then work with the waste team on is that businesses are aware of the change, and then they're asking questions about what do I need, how do I tackle this, what support can you give me to understand. So we've actually had quite a lot in the recent months actually around that. So it's just they're wanting a bit of clarification on how the change in legislation impacts them and their business and their commercial waste.
Come back in. So I get that this is a positive because we look at our environment in a bigger way and we've got to get the zero waste up to where we need to be. But how do you think businesses are feeling about it? Because there's obviously going to be a big change in the way that the businesses are going to operate. I have a colleague that's really worried about what's going on now, about the changes on how he's going to be able to recycle. And he's asking me questions personally about those concerns. How do you think? Do you think that businesses are very concerned about the changes on how they've got to change in the way to actually meet the criteria of the 6th of April?
I can't answer how the businesses feel about it because they reach out to me to ask for clarification on the legislation and what they need to do. So as a service, we're supporting them. Yeah.
Sorry, if I can just come in there quickly. Obviously, I know Councillor Simon's also sort of raised the point, but it was veering more into the waste side of it. So just to highlight, it is going to cleaner communities in their last cycle of meetings. So that would be appropriate to specifically ask those sorts of questions. Sorry.
Right, thank you. Thank you, Beck. We move on to question 7 now and hand you to Councillor Carl Gordon.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. This is the first in a series of questions which relates to 4.2 on the report. My question focuses on the monthly business clinics. Can you put a bit of colour on what they are, whether they're in person, online, how well attended are they having an impact, and some of the sort of outcomes, and will they be continued into year 2? Thank you.
Okay, so the business clinics were established through the use of the shared prosperity funding that we have for business support. So we established these, I think the first one was maybe last summer. So basically, every month there's a business clinic. We rotate them between Cumbrian Town Centre, Pontypool Market, Blaenavon and Mamilid Park Estates. So we get a nice coverage. So every quarter they're at one of those. They're delivered in partnership with Business Wales and Development Bank Wales. So there's only 3 representatives, one from Torfaen Council, my colleague, and one from those 2 partners. Because what we found is the businesses coming to the clinic didn't want a whole panel in front of them. But because my colleague whose business engagement team is there, anything that is then that the authority can support them with, he can bring that back as if we took a phone call with an inquiry, it's someone sat there with that inquiry that then we can funnel through and get the information back to them. So they're always booked up. We have between, we normally get about 10 attendees. They have half-hour slots throughout the day. And a lot of people, they prefer to sit in front of someone. So we've had businesses that have rung us up and we say, well, there is a business clinic in they were from Blaenavon, for example. There's one coming up in Blaenavon, and they say, oh, can I book onto that? It'd be great to sit down. And I think they appreciate that as a difference to a phone call or an email. Sorry, and the next question, the other part of that question was coming into year 2 of the project now, we will continue with the business clinics. It would just be after, while we've got the SPF funding, we're able to do that.
Okay, thank you very much. Question 8, which is also on 4.2, is interested to see what training is on offer and available, and how do we tailor the training offer to the local demand or need?
So in year 1, the training we delivered there was a session targeting young entrepreneurs. We do training in partnership with Business Wales. So they're currently delivering a 6-week programme for start-up businesses. Going into the new financial year, year 2 of the project, we're going to put on a lot more training opportunities for businesses. Now, a lot of the training we'll be doing is in response to need that we've evidenced through the inquiries that have come through. We'll also use our Torfaen Business Voice as a group of businesses that we can consult with and ask them what sort of training would they like. So just to see if the evidence of need through that grouping as well. And then we develop the training opportunities on the back of what is shown as a requirement.
Okay, thank you very much on that. Question 9 is Councillor Nick Simons. Can you hear us? Nick, okay. Okay, we'll pass on to Councillor Carl Gordon then, if Nick is having some problems.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So again, on 4.2, you mentioned Meet the Buyer events. Again, can you just provide some colour around what they are, what they look like, how they're useful, please?
So the Meet the Buyer events is something we're going to be doing in 2nd year of the project. So we'll be looking at targeting different sectors. It could be, an example could be that you get housing developers together with the trades in one room, so then that they could look at what is available locally. So it's trying to encourage local supply chains. We could look at the food sector, working with our colleagues in the food resilience team to get sort of hospitality and local food providers, caterers, etc., in the same room together. So that's something that we're developing for year 2, but that's the idea. It'd be sectoral, just to encourage local supply chains.
Yeah, just to add a bit on the back of that, Meet the Buyer events have traditionally been government agencies actually talking to businesses around the contracts that they would have up for procurement. So Kate's team is looking at Meet the Buyer with regards to private sector requirements, and as she rightly said, is to adopt that idea to actually then use it to create local supply chains to keep that pound within Torfaen as such.
Yeah, I'm encouraged by that. I think it's a networking opportunity, doesn't it? It's opening up markets, you know, within Torfaen Borough, which is excellent. So yes, thanks for that. It's really useful.
Okay, thank you. And we move on to question 10. Let's back to Councillor Nick Hawler, please.
This is about 4.3. In March of 2025, the current SPF funding will come to an end. What contingency planning are we carrying out to mitigate this risk?
With the funding, we've been in a good position that we've been able to put on a lot of activity, and we'll be able to do in year 2. The issues we face is the type of activity we've got, and there's always a cost, whether it's to venue, promotional activity, etc., etc. I think there's an element of activity we could continue. We could work with our internal partners for training, but I believe we'd have to be looking different ways, and it might not. At the minute, we have the benefit of the funding that we can put on the good activity. It would be much reduced in the future, but I wouldn't like to say it wouldn't happen.
To add to that, obviously, SPF comes to an end in March 2025. I would be surprised if there was another external funding on offer to replace that. And I think the work that Kate is doing now and the team are doing is that they're showing that these concepts work. So these concepts will then be built into another external funding bid. Obviously, we can't guarantee that will be successful, but you know, there will be a lot of effort put into that. And it's a matter of, I think all the council departments are in the boat where sometimes you have to look at your resource, prioritise, adapt, and move on. So, but the intention is that when the replacement for SPF comes in, that's where we will look for extra funding or other external sources.
Yeah. Just to give a bit of background about shared prosperity funding, so that was the successor to leaving the EU, and the EU funding we had. EU funding, we had 3 programmes over 7 years. So when we left, we had almost like a pilot, really, wasn't it? Community Renewal Fund, which then led on to the first Shared Prosperity Fund. Yes, it ends next year. There's a general election proposed for this year, isn't there? So it could be that we get an announcement on what the future looks like before the election period, or it may be for the new administration and Parliament to announce that.
Okay. That business engagement work that Kate that is the foundation for any bids going forward based on sound evidence that she's gathering now.
So that really kind of follows on to my next question, which is also about 4.3. Should the funding cease, will this have an impact on what data is collected and reported?
I think that leads on to something further on in the report around the CRM. So the CRM is where we collect the data. If the funding were to cease, our existing CRM, we wouldn't be able to continue with that because of the licence costs. We've always been reliant on external funding to cover that. So this is where there's the suggestion of the exploration of the CRM that we use to be the one that is used for residents, being My Council Services, which will give us financial sustainability going forward.
Just to add to that, we gathered data as a result of our engagements. So if we lose the proactive part of it, then the data could be affected in the quantity that we gather. So that is one of the risks that we have to look at.
Okay, Thank you very much. Linking in with that, question 12, in the report it said without further funding, the business engagement team would not be able to deliver this additional activity associated with the TBT service. What wider impact would this have, especially on the local economy?
I think what we've been looking at the moment, there's funding available, so Torvine Business Direct is evolving based on that funding. Torvine Business Direct wouldn't get lost, it would look different. And how that will look at the moment, we're not in the stage, we're not in the phase of planning for that. If there will be an effect on the service, it will become more reactive rather than proactive. Right? So it could have a knock-on effect, but there will be mitigations put in place with the team to minimise the effect of those risks.
Okay, thank you very much. Hope it doesn't come to that. Go on to question 13 then, and with the Councillor Carl Gordon.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. This question relates to 4.4 of the report. It says Torvine Business Direct was initially piloted across the economy and environment, and then the wider authority, and it's now the rollout is now complete. All directorates aware of the services and the process are developed with those who regularly receive business inquiries. So the question basically is the system now up and running smoothly, and have any issues been identified during the rollout?
So every team, the rollout is complete across the authority. The reason we piloted it within the Economy Environment Directorate is because probably 80% of business inquiries came into that directorate. The processes are different for every team. So that's why we engage separately. We put together a flow form from receiving the inquiry to closing the inquiry, different ones for every single team, because licensing would have some timescales that are statutory requirement. Planning would have different timescales, as well as processes. So the processes are working because they are different for every area, and we keep an eye on that. But what we do, we keep that continuous engagement with our colleagues across the authority, because if there are issues in the way the process works, they come back to me. And there have been a couple of teams that have said, this isn't working for this reason, so we sit down and look at it again and all agree on a different process or a tweak to that process to ensure it does work. So the thing with Business Direct, I've always said, because the business environment is always changing and the internal environment is always changing, we will continually be reviewing and refining the service we're delivering forevermore, I would say.
Yeah, thank you for that. Just to come back on your final point, it's good to see that there's some sort of introspection and analysis of what's been provided and how it can be tweaked. Because as you say, it's an evolving thing, and it's good to know that you're across that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Move on to question 14 now, and hand you over to Councillor Caroline Price.
Thank you, Chair. My question is on 4.5. The service will enable the authority to improve its efficiency and effectiveness, to streamline its processes and systems, to enhance its customer service and satisfaction when dealing with businesses. How will this be measured?
So we will go out through questionnaires to the businesses that we deal with, and that would be asking them about the service they received, how did they find it. It's looking at that customer satisfaction, and then we can start to measure that, but we can also learn from that as in part of the continuous reviewing and refinement of the service.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Price. Question 15, hand you back now to Councillor Carl Gordon, please.
Thank you, Chair, and you'll be pleased to know we've just passed the halfway point in the rather long list of questions we've got for you today. It's to 4.6. TBD's reached a diverse range of businesses, which is lovely, and it details the type and scope of businesses you've reached. My question is, do we feel there's been any gaps in the type of businesses we're reaching, and what more can we do to reach businesses? And the last element of that question is, are there any businesses that we see that choose not to engage with the service? Are there any trends emerging? Thank you.
I suppose the way to look at that is under 4.8, where there is the data set that we provided as part of the report, and you can see there the inquiries by sector, which are the most common ones that we get, and the ones that are lesser so. It's a difficult one because through the service is those sectors reaching out to us to answer their inquiries. So we kind of like don't drive that part of it. What we do drive is that additional activity that we provide to support businesses across sectors, and as we said previously, some of the targeting through Meet the Buyers. So you can see from that data which ones there are not necessarily gaps, but lesser so inquiries, and sort of the trends we're getting through of the types of inquiries and by sector that are being received.
Further into the report, if you have a look, the way we engage the top 60 businesses within Torvine is actually mentioned in there, and that's one of the things that has come out of this piece of work, that that type of company is more complex, it's larger, and if you look at private sector, and I'll go back to my banking days for that, the larger companies are dealt with in a different way, and that's already come through. And just to give you some of the bits on that, since last June, 21 businesses have been visited by the Torvine Strategic Economic Forum, which is a partner SPF bid to Kate's work. And of those 21 businesses, the total sales is £513,600,000, of which £157,932,000 are exports. So there's a different skill set in looking at that kind of thing, and luckily through the forum and experience within the team, we're able to do that as well. So that's one of the things, in answer to your question, yeah, we do look at things, some things differently, and that's come out of the work that Kate has already done.
Thank you, that's useful. Sometimes you ask these questions and it's all right to say, no, we're fine, we've covered it. That's a reasonable answer, and that's great. We're not trying to trip you up for a second. We're saying, is everything okay with that? And you can say, yeah, everything's fine with that. But thank you for providing the sort of additional information. I'll shut up now. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you very much. And move on to the next question then. Back to Councillor Nicola.
This is question 16. It's based on 4.7. The services increase the visibility and accessibility of the council services. How have we measured this, and can you provide an example on how we have improved the accessibility?
I think At the moment, the measurement of that is through the increase in inquiries that we're seeing through the CRM and that data. So we can see quarterly it's just been on the increase. So that's how we can measure that. And again, it's through the feedback service, which we're restarting those 1st of April, because we're revisiting, again, part of the review and refinement of the service, we're revisiting the questions that are going out. But that's the way we measure that visibility and accessibility of the council. But I think it is evident in the number of inquiries that have come through and that increase in them.
Okay, happy with that. Okay, we'll move on to the next question, which is number 17, and it's Councillor Carl Gordon.
Thank you, Chair. We've mentioned 4.8, the report there, and the helpful information you've provided within that. The question is, do we analyse the data on the types of inquiry received? And how will this data impact how the service is developed going forward to year 2?
We do analyse on types of inquiries. So as a team, there's certain functionality within the CRM. We've developed a series of keywords, so we can see, and again, that comes out in the report, sort of inquiries by type. But particularly through the SPF funding and some of our outputs and outcomes as a requirement of that funding, we keep a track. So we analyse how many startups, if they're entrepreneurs, or by type, we look at if they're waste or if they're looking for grants. Now, for example, if it's a business is looking for grants, at the minute we're doing a piece of work looking at the gaps in grant provision. So what grants are out there? So we're kind of like doing a kind of a comparison of existing grants, and it's using that analysis of that data that provides us with the gaps in the grant provision, and then going forward, if we are fortunate to have another round of funding coming in, we can use that evidence to build products to support our business community for their business growth.
Very useful, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Question 18, it was more or less duplicate of questions already answered. So we'll move on to question 19, and that's asked by Councillor Caroline Price, please.
Thank you, Chair. My question is on 4.10. The coordination and communication with other council departments and external partners. What corporate leadership monitoring is conducted?
When you say corporate, can you be a bit more specific in what you're after, please? Because I'm getting a bit confused with that one.
Well, sorry.
Okay. All the programs, all the SPF program, part Kate's work is monitored through the PMO on a monthly basis. There are aspects of the business direct service included within the county plan, and they are reported on a quarterly basis. So the corporate scrutiny or corporate monitoring of the delivery of all the services is reported through county plan, reported through let me get this right, corporate through the PMO, and reported up through line management on a monthly basis.
Okay, thank you.
That comes Price. Okay, thank you very much. And leading still on 4.10 question, Councillor Carl Gordon, please.
Thank you, Chair. Again, 4.10, the services face some challenges, and you include in that the changing needs and expectations of the businesses in the market. Have you found that the needs are increased or decreased or changed in any way due to I would call it the current economic climate, but the financial crisis is a more pertinent description, I would suggest.
We've found of recent a lot of the inquiries more so asking for funding support, and this is what has led us to look at what the funding environment is what is available at the moment and what the gaps are, because it seems more and more people are that's their big issue at the moment, is maybe through rents, through salaries, equipment more so as a start-up, they're looking for that, but established businesses seem to come to us seeing if there's any support for rent and salaries, and that's very difficult in a grant funding situation, but that's why we do work with partners such as Development Bank that can support that need.
I think there's also a requirement within our local businesses when you look at them. In times of financial crisis, that's when companies have to adopt and change, adapt new processes. So there's a requirement for money out there to push into research and development, which is we've done on a small basis with our tech development grant through the innovation ecosystem. We work very closely with Welsh Government officers on their innovation programmes, and they have money at the moment that's £200,000 over 2 years. We've introduced companies into those, so there's a big need for that. There's also a need for grant funding to kick off the production of these developments, so that if they put in projects on ice, so to bring that forward, that grant funding is needed to kick those projects off at an earlier date. And that requirement is the kind of stuff that's driving the request for extra finance through KIDS, through the business direct stuff. So yeah, in these times, finance is an important thing. And, you know, working with the companies to understand where they want to go, and how we can help them get there and pull that programme of support together, it is a vital part of what's happening.
Thank you. Just sort of a follow-up, if I may. Are we sensing there's sort of some trends in the type of businesses that are coming to you for extra funding? I mean, in terms of hospitality is going through a crisis, though I'm single-handedly trying to stick my finger in the dam on that one by going out as much as I can. But we're hearing lots of hospitality businesses are struggling for rent rates, whatever, people, you know, because they can't afford to go out and sort of eat out or have a pint or a gin and tonic or whatever, or, you know, is it other types of businesses? Where is the financial pressures particularly acute, or is it across the board, or is it in sectors?
It's across the board.
Yeah.
You know, okay. When it's a financial crisis, it affects them all. So it's across the board. The bits that I was relating to with regards to new machinery, that's predominantly manufacturing. We do have we have a large manufacturing sector within Torvine. So predominantly, that's where a lot of our top 60 companies are. People are delaying recruitment, although that is starting to ease off now. There are jobs available out there. People are looking at reintroducing training, reintroducing apprenticeships. So things are starting to turn, but it's dependent upon getting our money in there to actually say to our companies, you know, give our companies a chance to actually get that foot in front of the market, bring that research and development to fruition. And there's a big piece of work around that, and that's not just Torvine, that's Wales as well.
Okay, Councillor Horler.
Funding is obviously a big issue for businesses currently. We've got high streets in Torvine and all over the country now on decline. Do you think if there was more funding available that the high streets would be in a better position than they currently are right now? A start-up on a business on the street would want more funding and would like to come to you guys to be able to move it forward. Right now, the high street is declining massively. Is there an issue with funding right now and trying to get the funding for those businesses?
It's a very tricky question for us to answer because we don't, the way that economic development is delivered, Kate takes the inquiry and that's passed on to the foundation economy team that look after the high street. So personally, I have no daily contact with high street businesses at all, so it's very difficult to answer the question.
Oh, okay, thank you very much. Can I just hand you over to Beck, please?
Yeah, thank you, members. If I can just commit it in at this point, you'll notice throughout the report there's a set of questions that are posed to you to address through your scrutiny activity. So I think at this point it's suitable for you to stop and pause and reflect on scrutiny question 1, which is whether the activity and direction that Torvine Business Direct has taken over its development phase in year 1 is appropriate to continue in year 2 of its operation. So, members, are you satisfied that that is the case, and would you like to pose any recommendations at this point? You're satisfied with that? There was just the one point I picked at Councillor Hawley, which I didn't know if you wanted to put forward as a recommendation. Officers did answer it. It was with regards to the tracking of information from startups, and Dawson did say that that would be refined further through the business engagement framework, so whether you just wanted to support that and take it further. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Rebecca. Right, question 21. The annual licence cost you're saying will be absorbed by other budgets, ensuring the longer-term sustainability of the TBD service. Although the cost will be absorbed within budgets, will there be any increase in the cost of our MCS system due to the increase in functionality?
Long term, no. In the first instance, potentially would need to build, there'd be a bit of development work that we'd need to have in order for the MCS to undertake what is a business CRM side, or those sort of modules that we'd need. But we have the money within our current SPF funding, so it wouldn't have any, once that had been built using the SPF funding, there wouldn't, future costs, it would be covered in that, so no, it wouldn't have an impact going forward.
Excellent, thank you very much. Question 22, back to Councillor Carl Gordon, please.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, it's for fans of acronyms. This is an interesting part of the report, isn't it? So we're changing from the benefits of using MCS as the CRM for TBD, which I'm sure anybody watching on webcast will be fully across. Are there any potential, well, the question is, once I finish waffling, are there any potential drawbacks of transferring to the MCS system?
The team, we're undertaking exploration of moving to that system, so that will highlight if there are any drawbacks, and then if we were to identify anything, we'd have to look at how we'd mitigate that to ensure that that MCS provided us with all the functionality that we have at the moment through our existing CRM.
So isn't there a way of kind of future-proofing and testing the system to see if there will be any drawbacks before we swap over to it? I'd rather not move over to it, find it's going wrong and find a fix than not move over in the first place, if that makes sense.
We'd be running our current CRM. We've signed up to another 12-month licence just now, which take us through till February 2025. So the idea is we run the two alongside to see then if it does have everything we need. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's good. Scrutiny question 2 now, if you sit on the quarter way down. Would it be appropriate for the business engagement team to explore the suitability of using the My Council Services CRM as the vehicle through which to deliver Torvine Business Direct?
You know, that's the question.
Yes, so members, are you satisfied that it would be appropriate to pursue that? Yes. Do you have any recommendations to make on that? No, that's fine. No.
Right. Okay, thank you very much. Move on to question 23. The TBT service is continually being promoted, it says in the report. The information on the TBT webpage seems to be a bit limited. Are there plans to develop the site further into year 2, please?
Yes, there are plans. Currently, a lot of the business information is on the Torvine Economy and Enterprise website. So I'm working with our internal teams to ensure that the corporate site is further expanded on that those business pages that includes Torvine Business Direct.
Okay, thank you. And also, with the increase in inquiries, requires an increase in officer resource to respond to the business, it said. Is there sufficient capacity within our current resources to increase the level of support, or will resources need to be increased further?
So currently there's 2 core funded officers and 1 externally funded officer. And if we weren't to continue with the externally funded one, I think there will be an impact on the service, because we'd have a reduction in number of team responding to inquiries, but potentially an increase in the number of inquiries coming in.
Yeah, thank you. So it'd be like a double whammy, really. So, scrutiny question 3. Should the Business Direct service continue to be expanded subject to funding being available?
Chair, did you want to make any sort of reference within the recommendations or comments around that, the web page, as you in support of that, or?
Well, no, like say, if it is, if the web page is being updated, even if it's only putting links to different places, I think that would be make it give a bit more information. Right, sorry, question 25. In the report said, enable the business engagement team to develop opportunities for proactive engagement with our business community. Is capacity within the team sufficient to conduct proactive engagement as well as day-to-day service provision?
Again, with the benefit of having an additional externally funded member of staff, we are able to do that now and run service inquiries. If we weren't to have that additional member of staff, then that would have an impact.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I think that's self-explanatory. We go on to question 26. Back to Councillor Nick Hawler, please.
This is based on 4.23. The business engagement framework will be developed throughout 24 to include internal and external consultation events. Can you provide more details on the external consultation events, on the events and where they're going to be? I think we've highlighted this already in some ways.
At the moment, I can't tell you where they're going to be because we haven't organised those at the moment, but we will reach out to the business community across Torvine. We will go directly to the networks and forums, the Strategic Economic Forum, the Torvine Business Voice, but we will do through our social media, reach out to every business, so no one's excluded, and it is open to all businesses to engage with us on that.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Move on to question 27 now. Councillor Carl Gordon, please.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. In the business engagement framework, who will be responsible for delivering the activities to develop the business engagement framework, and how will the framework relate to the work of the Torvine Business Direct service?
I think that'd be me that would be delivering those activities to develop the framework. And Torvine Business Direct actually forms part of the framework. So where we're looking at all the various communication channels, both internally and externally, Business Direct just forms one of those. So that is a part of the channels.
Cool. Yeah.
Okay, lovely, thank you. And scrutiny question 4. Are members confident that the Torvine Business Engagement Framework will provide strategic direction for communication with the Torvine business community and support ongoing business growth?
Sorry, Chair, yes, confident. But can we have some sort of indication of how that's, where the checks and balances are, the ongoing analysis of, I mean, does that go to the executive member or somewhere else in the council, you know, with sort of reporting mechanism? Yes, we are confident, by the way, that will provide strategic direction, communication and support ongoing business growth. But apologies if we've covered it before during the body of the meeting, but where are the checks and balances? Where do they sit?
Checks and balances will sit with the exec member with regular updates, also reported back through county plans, so the performance of it will be reported in that way as well.
Fully answers my question. Thank you, Dawson.
Okay, thank you very much. We move on to question 28, which is the final question. It says in the report, the market and promotion of the TBD service has been reliant on the external funding from the Business Support SPF project. Is this something the business networks could support us with should funding cease, please?
I'm sure that would form part of the engagement framework on how those networks and forums support currently to support the promotion activity we undertake. But if going forward we weren't able to deliver to the extent that we do now, it'd be down to funding, and would those networks and forums have that in place that they could deliver as such?
Yeah. There's also, dependent upon the funding landscape, there's a nice phrase, isn't it? Going forward, obviously mitigations around that will be to review what we have and how we use it. So, yeah, there will be, or there is potential for there to be a reduction in service provision, but there will be measures taken to mitigate the effect of those on our local businesses, and it may mean looking at the way we allocate resource. It might be looking at the way we do things, the same as everybody else, but there will be mitigations put in place to minimise the impact on our businesses if that funding doesn't come through.
Okay. Well, I'd just like to thank you very much for your attendance this morning, and got to say, fantastic answers, and we're a lot wiser now than we were, so yeah, very thorough. So I'd like to thank you very much, and invite you to leave the meeting now, please.
Just to say in response to that, Chair, thank you for the opportunity of allowing us to come to speak to you this morning.
Right, members, can I remind you that the meeting is still in formal proceedings and therefore still being webcast. Members, can I refer you now to the scrutiny activity and invite you to offer your recommendations, please. So I'll hand you over to Rebecca now and help formulate the recommendations with us.
Thank you, Chair. So, as you discussed throughout relevant points in discussions there, your scrutiny activity is based on those 4 scrutiny questions that were posed. So, I think you were satisfied or confident in each of those. There was the additional points with regards to the tracking of start-up inquiries to actual start-up businesses being placed that Councillor Hall put forward, and the point about the website being developed further. I didn't have any additional notes on recommendations unless members have anything in a general sense they'd like to put forward or comments.
No, just to sort of echo what the Chair's already said about the sort of the fulsome way the questions were answered. I think the system is working well. I note the points about the website and advertising it a little bit better, and I think that should be part of the recommendations, that we do sort of widen out the reach if we can, albeit dependent on resource. But yeah, I'm happy that it's working well. There are sufficient checks and balances if it is falling by the wayside. But yeah, nothing further to add. Thank you.
Yeah. Very precise this morning and quite interesting to listen to what they're currently doing. This is a 2-year project that's going into 25, and in 25, potentially, the funding is going to be lost. With all the hard work that these officers have done over the period of time, would it be preferential to ask them to see how much funding issues they are having to progress this over 25 and to look for more funding to actually keep this project moving forward? Is that something we could ask? There's obviously going to be a funding issue stop in 2025. What are they doing to take it further than 25 to keep the service, which is obviously valuable to the business sector?
I think that was kind of, to an extent, asked and answered during the committee, Nick, to be honest, because local government faces a massive funding crisis, but I'm not going to make a party political point here because it's not appropriate. But if anybody's read the news, will see there's funding implications for everything, the work we do as a council. But as the executive member pointed out, there's a inevitable general election within the next, I'd say within the next 12 months rather than this year, because I feel it might be delayed. We never know what comes out of the back of that process, but I think they are doing what they can to look at funding in a sort of a confusing political landscape, shall we say.
Just for further assurance purposes, if you Councillor Hall, obviously you receive an annual update each year on the recommendations that you've made. So you will get to reflect back on the discussions you've had and the action that's been taken on those recommendations. But also you have your visioning exercise each summer as well. So I would hope that if there is issues, or if officers foresee that there are potential issues with funding coming forward, that they would raise that at visioning and put that to you as to whether you then decide you need to scrutinise that again down the line. So just for your assurances.
Okay, thank you. Anything, Caroline or Nick?
No, Chair.
No, nothing from me, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll move on to agenda item 6, which is item for next meeting, which I will hand you over to Rebecca.
Thank you, Chair. So this is the item where you reflect on your basket of items and any upcoming items in the exec forward plan or any audit referrals. As you'll see from the appendices, there were no audit referrals, and there is just one item in the exec forward plan relevant to this committee, which was the Cumbrae placemaking plan, which isn't relevant and timely for scrutiny at this point. The item that you did select at visioning was adult community learning and the commercial training delivery offer. Are you still happy that that is the item that you take for your next meeting? Yeah, lovely. Yeah. Thank you all.
Okay, thank you, Rebecca. And agenda item 7, date of next meeting. to confirm the next meeting is scheduled for the 21st of March 2024 at 10 a.m. So I'd like to thank everyone for your attendance and your contribution on what was a very interesting meeting this morning. So thank you all very much. Okay, so I now bring this meeting to a close.